11 famous explorers who changed everything. 1. Marco Polo, 13th century. Marco Polo was a Venetian merchant and adventurer. He traveled along the Silk Road from Europe to Asia. Polo was the first European to explore China in depth. He was invited to the court of Kublai Khan. He spent 17 years on fact-finding missions around China. 2. Zhang He, 15th century. Zhang He is considered the greatest Chinese explorer. He was an admiral who commanded 300 ships. Zhang made 7 epic voyages to Southeast Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. He traveled aboard so-called treasure ships. They were loaded with gold, porcelain, and silk. Zhang exchanged these goods for ivory, myrrh, and even China's first giraffe. 3. Christopher Columbus, 15th century. Columbus undertook 4 voyages across the Atlantic. There's much controversy around his discovery of America, but there's no doubt that he was a pioneering explorer. Columbus was hoping to find a westward route to the Far East. Instead, the Italian navigator found himself in the Bahamas. Believing he'd reached the Indies, he dubbed the natives Indians. 4. Vasco da Gama, 15th century. In 1497, the Portuguese explorer sailed toward India. He was the first European to reach India by sea. This opened up the first sea route between Europe and Asia. The Cape Route ushered in an age of Portuguese exploration. 5. John Cabot, 15th century. Born Giovanni Caboto, he was a Venetian explorer. In 1497, Cabot sailed to North America. He landed in what he called Newfoundland, in present-day Canada. Cabot mistook it for being Asia and claimed land for England. No one knows what happened to him afterward. 6. Pedro Alvarez Cabral, 16th century. Cabral was the first European to reach the Brazilian coast. He was on a voyage to India, but sailed too far southwest. He found himself at present-day Porto Seguro. 7. Amerigo Vespucci, 16th century. The Florentine navigator was following Cabral's route. He explored the Brazilian coast and the West Indies. Vespucci was the first to realize they weren't in Asia. The new continent was described as the New World, but it came to be named America after Vespucci. 8. Ferdinand Magellan, 16th century. Magellan was the first European to cross the Pacific Ocean. He organized the Spanish expedition to the East Indies. Magellan and his ships managed to reach Guam. In 1521, Magellan was killed after reaching the Philippines. The expedition was completed by Juan Sebastian Elcano. It was the first circumnavigation of the Earth. 9. Hernán Cortés, 16th century. The Spanish explorer landed in Mexico in 1519. This led to the fall of the Aztec Empire. Cortés claimed a huge territory for the Spanish crown. It stretched from the Caribbean Sea to the Pacific Ocean. 10. James Cook, 18th century. The British captain made several daring expeditions. They helped map Oceania, New Zealand, and Australia. In 1770, Cook was the first European to land in Australia. 11. Roald Amundsen, 20th century. The Norwegian explorer was the first to reach the South Pole. He led an Antarctic expedition in 1910 to 1912. He was also the first to sail through the Arctic's Northwest Passage.